Okay. Sorry. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Invisible Condition. It's not all in your head. Okay. I'm your host, Jeff Pearson, and I'm laughing because I almost hit the wrong button. Welcome to live TV, everybody. We want everybody to realize, everybody with an invisible condition, okay, to know beyond the shadow of a doubt that you have a voice, you have a community, and you are not alone. And that is what we're about around here. And to that end, I have an amazing guest today. Kelli Reinhardt is my guest, and she's amazing. And she lost her middle sister to suicide in 2017. After that tragedy, she founded BCC Evolution, which is a nonprofit focused on mental health and suicide awareness and prevention. And Kelli is a warrior of mental health, warrior for mental health. And she has now dedicated her life to saving as many lives as possible by normalizing the conversation around mental health and suicide, because nobody wants to talk about it, but we need to. So Kelli is a TEDx speaker, mental health educator, and she is the host of Make Mental Health Matter, a TV show on this very network that I had the extreme honor of being a guest on recently. She was amazing, and I'm so thankful that she is here. Let's welcome her to the show. Kelli, good morning. Hello. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having on. I'm excited we get to do the switch of the shows. It's fun.
I know trading shows is fun. I love it. I got to do this more often. We've got so many amazing hosts with so many cool shows with such great content that I don't know why we don't do this more often. So this is so cool. So just to start off here, just tell us about your family and your middle sister that passed away, and like in hindsight, was there anything that, like, I mean, it's all, hindsight's 2020, right? But like, was there anything that looking back you go, oof, there was a sign, or that kind of sparked this whole thing,
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, I don't know if I've ever been asked that question. So maybe similar, but definitely so my sister, she was one of my middle sisters. I am one of 5 girls. I'm actually the baby. And so my mom had 2 and my dad had 2, and then they got married and had me. So technically they were all my half sisters, but yeah, same thing.
You know what? That's all right. No, they're your sisters. It's all right.
Yeah, totally. And my sister, it was my middle sister on my mom's side who passed away. And she was actually the one out of all of my sisters that I grew up with the most, because we were in the same household longer than any of my other sisters. And so her and I, it is interesting because a lot of times our lives reflected each other, not on purpose, but I again, was the baby. I looked up to her, and I mean, she had like my nephew when she was 17. I had my daughter when I was 16. She ended up getting married in Vegas at one point in time. I ended up getting married in Vegas at one point in time. It was just like, not intentionally. I wasn't intentionally following her, but I really, like, truly, she was that sister that I went to for everything. And my sister struggled a lot throughout her life. I mean, she really, the words that I used specifically was, she was my crazy sister. She was over dramatic. And it was because I didn't understand, and nor did I ever really ask any questions about why she kind of was the way I guess she was. She was a caregiver. She took care of a paraplegic. She was a CPR instructor. She was always in the healthcare space and always a giver, and had millions of people that surrounded her, yet she felt completely alone. And there were a lot of signs. She actually ended up in a mental health facility at one point in time. She had attempted suicide 6 other times. And at that point, I shut off my emotions, because I didn't understand, like, why would you not want to be on this planet? And I ultimately, we butt heads like no other. And I just really, after attempt after attempt after attempt, I didn't know how to cope or even like process any of the emotions. So therefore I just shut them off. And she actually ended up having a botched hysterectomy that almost took her life. And it was the first time that I felt like I got a glimpse of my sister wanting to be alive. And that's why it was between 5 years. There was like a 5-year span where there weren't any attempts, or at least that we didn't know of, our family, up until the point she completed. And yeah, it was just, I mean, in retrospect, again, like you said, my sister was she was like a very upkept person. She would come to family events with her hair, her makeup, wearing nice things.
Sure.
And when I look at the Christmas prior, so that would have been 2016, she looked very disheveled, very tired. My sister was also diagnosed with MS towards the end of her life, so I know that she was in a lot of pain, constantly taking baths. And it was just, she also at one point got the right cocktail of medication that brought back my sister, or who my sister, I felt like, that I grew up with. But now looking in retrospect, she was just cutting off ties with our family. Specifically our oldest sister, she cut off ties with her. And had I maybe had the skills, the tools, the resources that I have now, I could have asked some of those critical questions, but I didn't know any better at that time. So there was a lot there. Now with the eyes and the lens that I have today, I see a lot in retrospect, but that's why I do what I do now. So
yeah, I mean, a lot of times what we do is born out of some sort of, some sort of pain, or some sort of thing that we went through that we didn't want anybody else to go through. So that's, I mean, I know countless numbers of people that have started organizations and websites and apps and tools and whatever for that purpose. So 2 things. I'm so sorry for your loss of your sister, because that's terrible. That's awful. And I would never wish that on anybody. But kudos for I mean, honestly, well done for bringing this out of it, because that could have very easily gone one of 2 ways, right? I mean, it's very easy to do all kinds of things that are a lot darker than what you've done. So I applaud you for taking that route. That's good.
Thank you.
You're helping people. It's awesome.
Thank you.
And by the way, if anybody out there, I'm that's you. I'm talking to you, audience. Anybody out there that has questions? I mean, we don't need to get into specifics or anything, but if you have questions about this, if you're struggling with something like this, if you know somebody that's struggling with suicidal thoughts or anything like, or you have any questions about anything in her story, please reach out. Please reach out. We're going to have contact info. We'll have it. I mean, it'll be in the show notes. You will not be able to not have a way to get a hold of her. You'll have, so just reach out. This is the person you want to ask right here. She's the expert. So, so getting back to our conversation here. I mean, suicide's kind of a tricky topic, right? Nobody wants to talk about it. Like everybody shies away from it, and everybody just changes the subject, right? How have you you obviously have grown through this tragedy. I mean, it's a tragedy, but you've grown through it. What, how do you overcome some of the stigmas around that? Because I mean, I'm sure, like, you tell somebody, oh, my sister, ended her life, like, automatically there's probably things that pop into people's heads about her and about you. How do you overcome that? Do you address that in your, talk about that for a minute.
So that sparked a little thought in my head, and I haven't actually thought of that in a really long time. I know when she first passed, right? I had a cousin years and years and years ago that took her own life, and I was younger at that time, and I didn't really fully understand. And then actually her brother, my other cousin, he ended up overdosing, and it just wasn't part of my world at that time. Nor did I really fully understand anything behind it. After my sister passed, I don't know, it's such a weird, interesting way for people to die because it's so abrupt, and most of the time you don't have any answers unless, even if they leave a note, it's still not like you don't get the answers. And it makes it really hard. I call them now the shoulda, coulda, woulda, hoodoo, voodoo, we do's. All the things that I could have done, all the things that I should have done, all the, how am I going to move forward with this? And I know, at least, and I've talked to a lot of people over time, I was just in a fog. That's the best way for me to explain, is I didn't even know reality. I was going. My mechanism for coping is just staying busy. I had a 1.5-year-old at the time, and I had to be mom. That's what I was doing. But ultimately what was happening in my unconscious mind was that I was living in fear. I was scared that I was going to lose somebody else. Ultimately, that fear turned into anger, and it expressed through anger with me. And it wasn't until I hit what I would call a virtual wall that I was like, man, I got to take care of myself, and I have to process my grief, and I got to figure out what's happening to me. And that's when I shifted into, I found an amazing community that really supported me. I was able to open up and learn more, but ultimately a process that I did, I was able to forgive my sister and forgive myself, which was something that I didn't know I needed to do. And after that, it just opened up this whole world that I was like, I need to do something with this. And that's how I created BCC Evolution. And I've had people, actually, I was just having this conversation kind of with some friends the other day, but the world of suicide, it is hard, right? Being in this space is really hard, and having a story attached to it, a really personal story, it can be really, really heavy. But the thing about what I do specifically is I educate people. I have these hard conversations. This is not something that I ever thought that I would be doing. If you knew me prior to my sister dying, you would have thought I was really shy and timid, and I didn't talk that much. I don't think so. But over time, I've learned how to express my emotions. I've learned how to talk about suicide in the appropriate way. It's all about the conversation and having hard conversation, which was definitely something that I hated doing. So I think it's like the community that was able to lift me up and then start opening me up to get more education myself. And that's what I give back to people is like, how do you and I have this conversation in a way that's respectful, and also like I use the words completed versus committed, or died by versus successful. There's a lot of words that differentiate how we talk about it, and that's ultimately what really breaks down that stigma. And I don't think I was ever worried about what somebody would look at me for. But I also was open to share my experience, which not a lot of people are. And I've come into contact with a lot of people that still are like, oh my gosh, like I lost somebody to suicide. And I'm like, it's okay to talk about it. Like I'm a safe space. This is a safe container for you to talk about it.
Yeah.
And it's okay that you don't want to go out into the world and talk about it. But once you let it out, and I have seen so many times with myself, with people that come on my show, once they talk about it, people are much more receptive and then they want to share their story. And that's the important part, is when we can get people talking, we can actually start saving lives, because now you don't have to feel ashamed about the thoughts that you might be having.
Oh my gosh, exactly. I mean, you just said a word that I start every show talking about, and that's community. You know, and I had somebody actually ask me one time, it's like, okay, you're not alone, you're in a community. Now what? Like there needed to be more, you know, sometimes it doesn't need to be more. Sometimes all just sitting in that community and knowing that the person that you're eyeball to eyeball with, talking, you know, even if you're not saying anything, knowing that they're in the same boat, that they have done what you are going, or they've been through what you're going through. You don't have to, that's it. That's okay. That's enough. Right there is enough most of the time. And sometimes and then you can start working on moving past it. But especially, you know, for a long time, that's enough, isn't it? That's enough. It's gotta be.
Yeah. I mean, silence, honestly, like we as human are a little weird with silence, but silence is so powerful. Yeah, terrified of it. It's so powerful because I mean, that's what I tell and teach people, is that's your superpower, is being silent and feeling uncomfortable in the uncomfortable situations, because that allows, especially in the mental health space, it allows people to collect their thoughts and ultimately speak out what they need. And when you never allow that space, you never allow brains to process. So
yeah, exactly. Well, and it doesn't matter what I mean, not to minimize what you're talking about, but really across the board with any condition, any problem, anything, it everybody's awkward about silence. You're absolutely right. Whether it's somebody that lost a loved one to old age, or a car wreck, or I have to have surgery and they're broken, they're scared, they're terrified to have surgery, or they, you know, any conversation that's hard, sitting in silence and just listening. And if they're not talking, just sitting in silence with them and being there with them. You're right. It's the weirdest thing. But if you can get good at that, if you can be okay with that, it's one of the most valuable things you can ever do for that person. So, because it's on them. Like the ball's in their court. You don't want to speak over them or anything. You know, if you're sitting there with them, it's almost like the first one to talk loses, you know?
Yeah.
You know, so anyway, well, hey, I love this. I love where this is going, but I want to, and I love that you just said like being silent is good. I'm going to hang on to that for a minute, because that's good stuff. But for a second, we're going to just break. If I think we're in a good spot, we're going to break for commercial here. And then after we come back, we're going to talk more about suicide prevention and some of your success stories that you can. I'm sure you've got some, and they're exciting. So I'm looking forward to hearing some of those. But everybody, stick around. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you on the other side of this break.
Hi, I'm Sarah Stockham, and I'm host of Simply Sarah. Join me Thursdays at 3 p.m. Pacific on the Achieve TV network for the best energetic tools to elevate your amazing life right here on E360 TV.
Everybody, glad you're sticking around. This is good stuff. This is good. It's uncomfortable stuff, apparently.
Yeah,
but it's good. Yeah. We got. Hey, that's kind of our thing with our nonprofit, with the condition I was born with hydrocephalus. It's like we want to increase the dialogue so that it's more familiar, so that people go, oh yeah, I've heard of that. Yep, yeah, no, I can talk about that, and then we have a conversation instead of, what's that? That's weird. I don't understand, and then they change the subject, So, yeah. And the subject of suicide and suicide prevention is so important. So we got to get that conversation going. So, tell us about your foundation, the BCC Evolution and the ACE mission.
Yeah, we like I was saying earlier, I founded it in 2018. It was an idea in 2017 after my sister passed, but again, with that fog, I was like, I'm not doing anything. But I ultimately just wanted to impact one life. Like, that was my whole goal. If I could just impact one life at a time, that was me doing my job. And it kind of it has evolved throughout the years. I actually started more in the suicide prevention space because my sister passed that way. But what I found is that, and it was actually through a friend. She's like, do you know what mental health first aid is? And I was like, no, but I need to. And that's what kind of shifted my perspective on really focusing on mental health, because that is generally, not always, but generally the root cause of what leads people to complete the act of suicide. And so if we can get to that root cause, then we can actually start saving lives. And with the programs that we offer, because it's awareness, conversation, and education. So awareness is really around the awareness, like what is helpful for your mental health, whether it is music, art, it could be travel. There's so many things that are really great for your mental health that people just don't think of. conversation is this. Let's have the conversation.
Yes.
Let's be uncomfortable in these conversations, because this is the only thing that's going to start saving lives. Like, really, truly, is having the conversation and asking questions, not just I call it like the Peanuts commercial, right? You have the wah wah wah. You
Yeah.
don't want to have that situation where you're trying to talk to a friend, a relative, a child, and they're getting the wah wahs, right? We want to have full conversations that we're being curious. We're actually asking questions like, are you suicidal? Are you going to kill yourself? Those are awkward and hard questions, but they can truly save a life. And that's where it goes into our E, which is our education. We actually put you through a class, or any of our classes. We offer multiple levels, but the initial one is that mental health first aid, that you really like get that general overview of what mental health, substance use, and suicide prevention, and then really get those tools ingrained in your body, so that you can ask those hard questions.
Yeah.
And that's just as important as all the rest of what we do. And it's just the basis and the foundation, whether it's a class or you come to one of our events, or it's me speaking on stage with the Make Mental Health Matter show, whatever it happens to be, it's all rooted in education, because I wasn't educated myself before my sister passed. And since I've gained lots of certification and lots of knowledge since she passed, that's what I give back to the community.
Love that. And as the founder of this amazing organization, I mean, I'm sure anybody, I mean, I've got a nonprofit myself. I mean, any organization that's worth creating is going to run into obstacles, right? We've talked about this a little bit, but in the past, over the time, but like, what kind of stuff did you run into? I mean, it's never easy, right? But what kind of obstacles did you come up against, and how'd you overcome those?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I was thinking when when I originally started this. I was like, I want to save the world and I want to help everybody.
How hard could it be, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can do this. I see a lot of people do it. And I was working at a corporate job for the first 3 years that I had my nonprofit. It was kind of like my side gig. I was funding it. We were just doing whatever random thing we could figure out to do. I had a board. I don't know if we were very effective, but I took the leap of faith in 2021 and I quit my corporate job and I jumped in full time. And man, I was like, what did I do? I mean, at first I was like, it's good. It's fine. It's great. And then the funding piece is the biggest thing for nonprofits. I mean, it is a nonstop cycle of trying to raise money, right?
Right.
And everybody assumes, actually, I was talking to somebody today about this. Everybody assumes that as a nonprofit, you get funds from the state or you get grants. And I mean, everybody else funds it. And it's so easy to get those things. But what people don't realize is that we're all going after the same money and all of us are doing a lot of the same things. And we have to fit our programs into what they're funding. It's not like, hey, I want to fund you. This person just walks up to you and they're like, I want to take care of this for you. Oh. I have heard that happen, but it hasn't to me. So I mean, it's designing the programs, it's implementing the programs in the education space. They want evidence-based programs so that they can have the data to make sure. The other thing that a lot of people don't know is that nonprofits are businesses. They should be ran as a business. The only differentiating factor is that we are able to give people ways to write off taxes. Other than that, we're actually held to higher standards than any business across the board.
Yeah.
Also, we really have to make sure, because there's so many different databases that you have to be registered within. You also, the biggest part that I didn't realize is that nobody's going to fund you until you can show two things: that you're sustainable and that you can make money on your own, because you have to make money for them to give you money. And I was like, if I was making money, why would I need your money?
It's the chicken or the egg, right? It's like you have to be making money to get money. And if you're,
yeah. And there's a lot of, I mean, right? Ugh. I mean, startup businesses, there's lots of funding and grants for startup businesses, but there is not funding for nonprofit startup businesses. There's a small chunk, but not
well, and if there is, it's so specific. It's like, this funding is for you to do this thing between 2 and 3 p.m. Central Time every other Tuesday on leap years. You know, it's like it's so specific. There's no such thing as unrestricted funds when you get grants and stuff. It's like they will pigeonhole you, and if you don't use it for that, like it's like they throw you in jail and throw away the key or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's so specific. And so, I mean, there are organizations out there that can help you raise unrestricted funds, which are phenomenal. And I think we've talked about a couple of them, but they're far and few between. Few and far between. That's what I meant. So it's fundraising is a thing. Well, and people don't understand that nonprofit doesn't mean we don't want to make money. It doesn't mean we don't turn a profit. It's such a weird term. I wish we could like reinvent the terminology around this.
Yes.
It really, because you're right. It's exactly the same as every other business. It's higher standards because we're trying to accomplish a mission that is different than a regular business. I don't even know. It's confusing.
I know.
I don't get it.
I know there's so much like behind that too. And one of the things that I had to come to the realization with, and it's a mindset thing, of course, because when you when you like create nonprofits, you're like, again, I was like, I want to save the world. And I was like, well, and then I had to backscale. I was like, I can't save the world if I can't save my community. And I also had to come to the mindset that I was valuable enough to make money, because as a charity, I had the mindset of I need to give everything away. Hence the reason I funded it for 3 years with my own money. Yeah. And then when I jumped in full time, I was like, I don't have those funds coming in anymore. Like, I've got to be creative, which is where I shifted to more of like a revenue generation model. But yet I also then had to have another mindset shift of, I would never ask you to go to a job full time and never get paid. So why am I asking that of myself as the founder? I am willing to pay everybody else, but I don't pay myself. And that's not fair, because I would never in my lifetime ask somebody to go out and do a job, a full-time, more than full-time job, and not get paid for it. And that was a mindset thing and a mindset flip that I had to have myself. And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand, is those of us that are in this full-time, we're doing it 120 million% all the time. And we're not anywhere near the amount of money that like a founder or a CEO would make in a for-profit business, because of the mindset of the nonprofit or charity. So it's a mindset shift that we need to make in society, and realize the value behind nonprofits. And it is absolutely okay for nonprofits to employ people, because nonprofits would not exist without people.
Exactly. It's it's so crazy. You throw that nonprofit label on it and everything gets turned upside down. So I don't know. Well, I thank you for getting that out there, because there's probably some people that need to hear it. You know, like, it's okay for a nonprofit to make money. Okay.
Yes.
Just gonna throw that out there. lots of money. The more money a nonprofit makes, the more people that nonprofit can help. So
Absolutely.
the more zeros behind the number it's better. So, so a lot of people, a lot of people in our audience may have, I mean, everybody's impacted by mental health challenges. I mean, if it's not you, it's somebody you know, right? So what are some of the most common things? Like if you were going to say, if you see this, you want to take action, what are some of the, just a couple of common things you could look for?
Yeah, I get asked this question a lot, and there's so many, so it's hard for me to answer, but also I know that you realize and your audience realizes there's so many invisible conditions that you'll never be able to see. So I want to differentiate first and foremost, like the difference between a sign and a symptom. So a sign is something you can actually physically see, like you can see it happen. And a symptom is something that has to be reported. Probably most of the people that come on here have more of a reported symptom potentially, right? Or they have to be reported. So if you are noticing, so my specialty is really mainly in like depression, anxiety, trauma, substance use. Substance use is a mental health challenge because it's a negative coping mechanism, but it's also something that can and can't be controlled depending on the makeup of our body. Like there's so many things that go into it. But I guess in the simplest way that I can explain is based off of my experience. Like I said earlier, is that I know my sister, her baseline, which is what I talk about, is we all have this baseline. It's what our norm, quote unquote norm. I don't feel like anybody's normal. Right.
Normal is relative. Yeah.
But your baseline, and this could be somebody who has a disability or somebody who has a disorder or has already been diagnosed, right? You know your baseline at any certain point in your life. And when you're looking for the extremes, whether it's a high or a low. It could be oversleeping, undersleeping. It could be like, so if you talk about like manic, so a high state or a low state. It can also, like I said with my sister, is that she was very upkept, but she looked very disheveled. So if somebody that is like really into their hygiene, then all of a sudden they're not, or over time it starts to decrease. Or flip-flop, right? You have your people that are maybe disheveled, then all of a sudden like they start getting like much more clean, which is generally a good thing, but you still have to watch out like moods. So mood fluctuation, if they have a high or a low, but also it's those like super switches, like you're really down, then all of a sudden you're excited or happy. That's where we miss people the most, because especially youth. Because as a parent, we're like, oh, they're getting better. Like maybe they've had a really low for quite some time, and we're doing everything that we possibly can to help them out. They're going to therapy, they're doing this, they're doing that. And then all of a sudden it's like, they're better. And you're like, oh, they're better. We're getting better. We're doing good, right? Yeah. We're like, whoo, I'm good. Those are the moments we miss the most, because that is generally somebody, not always, but sometimes somebody who has a really low that flip. Now they have a plan and they feel actually at peace with what the decision they've made. And so we have to be aware of that. And that can be vice versa too. Like maybe somebody is an A student, they're always happy, they have tons of friends, then all of a sudden they don't have any friends and they're like dropped really low. Those are what we're watching out for. It's abnormal in that baseline. And those are the things we want to watch for.
Yeah, totally. Yes. And I looking back, of course, here's that hindsight 2020 thing again, because you look back and you go, oh, yeah, Yeah. But you're right. That thing about the kids, that's a good call, because they sometimes, I mean, the kids are crazy anyway, right? They just, when they're little too, it's like, oh, they're really sad and they're kicking and screaming on the ground, and then they get up and they see their friends, and then they're happy again. And it's like, so that can be tricky. It can be really tricky. So, oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, and always and never too, you got to be careful with those words, right? Because I mean, I have kind of a joke I say with that one. It's like always. I don't even remember where I heard it. It was from a comedian or something, but he said, always and never are two things you should always remember never to say.
Right. Yes.
They're not, nothing is ever always or never. It's always in the, it's see, we can't help but use it though. It's always in between, there's nothing that's always or never. So, but that's maybe another topic for another time. But
well, I have a mentor that actually so I also am a coach, a neuro-linguistic programming coach, and that's one of those things, is that the always and never, right? And I catch myself saying always, and my mentor's like, always, and I'm like, okay, you got me. So not always. There's you can and, so that there's that gray area.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. It's hard not to though sometimes, and honestly, teenagers do it a lot.
They do.
It's we've got, at one point we had 3 teenagers in the house. It was an adventure. And so that comes up a lot, always and never. But well, I'll tell you what, we didn't get to any stories. We're going to do that at the end. We're going to do that after this break. I promise everybody, stick around. Don't go anywhere. We're going to talk about my favorite subject on the other side of the break too, which is hope. So stick around. Don't go far. And we'll see you in just a couple of minutes.
The Club eFit Home Portable Gym System is a groundbreaking new system that can help everyone at any fitness level. You can be the happy, fit person you always wanted to be, and Club eFit can make that happen by helping you get the body you deserve in the time you can spare. With workouts ranging from cardio, core, to total body toning, it's easy to get started. Start taking care of you today. To make the change, go to clubefit.com now.
Hey, how you doing? My name is Greg Russell. I'm the host of TechnologyTuesday.com. You can find us on the Conscious Business TV network every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the latest resources to help you make more money in your business. Join us on E360 TV. Come on.
All right. Hard to believe, but we are in the last little bit of the show here. We got a few minutes, so I want to make sure we get to what we want to get to. And one of the things is I had this QR code here for the majority of that last segment. I'm going to put it back up for the rest of the show. And tell first of all, tell people what they're going to see when they go there, and whether they type in the address or scan the QR code, it's the same thing. What are they going to find there?
Yeah. When you go to BCC Evolution, we have resources. So if you're in need of resources, they are there. Mainly on the first page, you're just going to learn a little bit more about BCC Evolution. But there is down towards the bottom, if you are somebody who truly struggles, there is a free download for 7 strategies and a safety and self-care plan. So that has been really helpful for people in the past that might be struggling to grab their safety and self-care plan and fill that out, because you never know when you're going to be that low of the low. And then check out our resources while you're there. Maybe you know somebody, or you personally need some resources. We have a trusted resource hub, and I vet all of those out to make sure that they're helpful and not hurtful.
Absolutely, as you should. Yeah, you don't need, that's the last thing you need, is somebody going there and getting the wrong message. So yeah, no, that's phenomenal. Thank you. Yeah. So I have a question that I ask everybody that comes on the show, and I love listening to the answers because it's a huge variety of responses I get, but it seems to be fitting. So how do you, Kelli, on your hardest days, how do you find hope?
I didn't think about that one. I mean, so it's probably been one of my personal biggest challenges, to be honest, because I can give and give and give, but I oftentimes forget to receive, and I forget me. And so actually that's why I created the 7 strategies for mental wellness, because it was a reminder for me that I need to take care of myself, because self-care is important. It's not selfish. It is actually very, very important. And I oftentimes really, I mean, that hope piece is so huge. And the things that I love about hope is there's 2 that I think of hope, and that's hold on, pain ends, and then help one person every day. And I feel like if you can do one of those 2 things, right, then we always have hope. And I think my biggest thing that gives me the most hope is when I can spend time with my family, and then also just hear the stories about how I was able to help others. Like, that gives me a lot of joy and a lot of hope.
Yeah, I mean, if you can help, like you said, help that one person, that sustains your hope for a while.
Yeah.
You know, one good story, you know. So yeah, speaking of stories, we're going to do it now. We got to get to some stories, man, because that's the fun part. So tell us about a couple really cool ones that you've had.
I mean, oh my gosh, I'm like, which one do I choose? I love educating. I really truly love doing the mental health first aid classes that we do. I have been honored to teach a whole gamut of people across the United States, from teachers to first responders to parents to mental health and healthcare professionals. And I just love, I mean, so many times I have heard, wow, I never knew this information. And it's not like rocket science by any means, but I also get a lot of feedback that the way that I train is, not that I'm saying anybody else is not good by any means, but I have that personal story that I add in, and I really do hone in on that suicide prevention space, because it is so important, and I don't want to just gloss over it. I want people to like really truly feel the impact of why it matters and why we're practicing asking those questions that I said earlier. And that has been, I mean, we actually had a younger girl that came and took the class because she experiences mental health challenges, and she wanted to learn more about herself. She couldn't get certified because she was too young. You have to be 18 or older. But yeah, it's just been, educating people has been really amazing. And going into one other story, I have a woman who has been helping me for quite some time now, a little over a year. She's my one person that if I ever feel like what I'm doing doesn't matter, I can go to her and talk to her. And she's told me multiple times that I saved her life because I was the only person that actually asked her the question about suicide. And it wasn't that she was suicidal, it was that she was in a full blown crisis. She
Yeah.
substance abuse and was in active addiction at that time. And she said, the moment that you asked me that question, I realized that I was actually in a crisis and I knew that I needed to get help. And she said, you didn't stop. And I didn't even remember. It was kind of like a auto response that I do, not auto response, but it was just like automatic for me to ask. And she said, you saved my life. And she's like, I wish more people would listen to me about BCC Evolution because they need to hear your message. They need to know what you do. And that's why she's been helping me now as a volunteer and as my kind of assistant for the last like 6 months. And it's just incredible to be able to watch her journey from active addiction into now recovery. So it's just really incredible.
That's awesome. Well, and that one thing that you said that I don't know why it sparked this in my mind, but listening is an active exercise. It is not when you're listening to somebody, if they open up to you, if we're not just sitting in silence, if they open up to you about something, listening is an active exercise. It's not just waiting for your turn to talk. It's an engaging thing. And if you do engage with that person, you can help them so much better than just, thinking what they're going through and waiting for your time to talk to give them some talking point that you heard on a pamphlet or something, like listening is huge. So, well, we're almost out of time. Time flies when you're having fun and telling amazing stories, but we got about 2 or 3 minutes to go. What would you like to leave our audience with, at the end of this? And the other thing is, what's the best way for people to contact you? I mean, we've got your website up here. We've had it up there for the majority of the show, but is there a more direct way that you could just say, look, reach out here?
Yeah, you can. I mean, bccevolution.org is a great place. You can also email support@bccevolution.org. I monitor all the emails, so you'll actually getting directly to me. We do have a phone number that you can text message. But yeah, the best way is email generally, the fastest. Cause again, I am a one woman show for the most part. But email's the best way. And I would say, I mean, I know that this show is all about that invisible condition. And I want you to know really, truly, your voice matters. And if you need help, if you are somebody who experiences a mental health challenge, maybe you have been diagnosed, you're not exactly sure how to help yourself, or maybe you have a loved one in your life that you want to be able to help, getting educated really truly saves lives. And so if you need resources, if you need information, like feel free to reach out to me, myself, or somebody on my team. We have an incredible board now. And again, my friend Alex is really helping me with a lot of things on the recovery space. So you truly matter. I mean, your life matters, your story matters, and whatever you're going through is your experience. So don't ever let anybody else tell you how to live your life. And I think that you are able to get through and find that place of hope if you are willing to do the work and find the help.
100%. Well said. 100%. I love it. Kelli, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being such an amazing guest and being so open and vulnerable and willing to share. And just thank you for what you're doing. It's huge. It's important. And so everybody scan the QR code. Everybody scan the QR code. Everybody go to the website. If you aren't in need of something she can help you with, somebody is. So So yeah, just thank you, Kelli. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. And I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
Yeah, thank you so much. I so appreciate you.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. And I am looking forward to seeing you on the next show. If you have a favorite show that like you've seen it, you've gone back and you've watched it a couple times, post it, share it. If it's your favorite show, it's probably somebody else's too. Okay. I love it when I hear back from viewers and they say, "Oh my gosh, that one was so cool. Where did that guest go? And what are they doing now?" And so definitely like, follow, share, subscribe, all the things. And join us for the next show that we will have, which is going to be on Groundhog Day. I promise it only happened to me once. The Groundhog Day only ever happens to me once a year. I don't know if everybody's seen the movie, but so far it's only been once. So join me on Groundhog Day, February 2nd for my next show. And till then, have an amazing day, and we will see you next time.